Your body knows you're about to lose it before you do. About 3 seconds before you snap at your partner. About 5 seconds before you put the baby down too hard. There's a signal. Your body is screaming at you and you've been trained your whole life to just ignore it. I'm gonna teach you to hear it. Because here's what nobody tells you about staying calm with a newborn. It's not about breathing exercises when you're already furious. By then it's too late. The game is won or lost way earlier in a tiny window that most dads don't even know exists. Miss that window and you are white knuckling it through the next hour, trying not to become someone that you hate. Catch it and everything changes. That window opens when you notice your tell. Now in poker, a tell is an unconscious habit that reveals your hand, a twitch, a glance, a change in breathing. The other players are watching for it because it tells them what you're hiding. You have tells too, except yours aren't revealing your cards to someone else. They are revealing your stress to you. They're your body's early warning system. They're that alarm that goes off when your nervous system starts climbing toward the red zone. And if you're like most dads, you've never even noticed them. I didn't. For months, I had no idea that my body was sending me signals all day long. I'd go from fine to furious in what felt like an instant, blindsided by my own anger. I thought I just had a temper. Turns out, I had a dozen warning signs that I had learned to ignore. Let me tell you about the first one I discovered. I noticed it one night around 3 a.m. My daughter had been crying for what felt like hours at that point. I was pacing the room, bouncing her, shushing her, doing all the things that were not working. And somewhere in the haze of that exhaustion, I noticed something strange. My teeth were clamped together so hard that my whole face just ached. I hadn't decided to clench my jaw. I wasn't even aware that I was doing it. But once I noticed, I realized it had probably been like that for 20 minutes, maybe longer. My body knew I was stressed long before my mind caught up. That was my first tell. Once I saw it, I started seeing it everywhere. In traffic, during work calls, when my wife asked me a question I didn't want to answer. My jaw was like a stress barometer I'd been carrying around my entire life without ever learning to read it. My second tell is my breathing. When I'm regulated, my exhales are slow and full. But when I'm climbing up toward that red zone, everything flips. Short, shallow inhales, tight exhales that never fully release. I am pulling air in, but it's like I'm holding on to something, not letting it go. It's subtle, but now that I know to look for it, it's obvious. My third tell is speed. When my stress rises, I start rushing. I start moving faster, talking faster, thinking faster. There's an urgency that affects everything, even when there's no actual emergency. If I'm speed walking through a diaper change, that is not efficiency. That's my nervous system preparing for a threat that does not exist. So jaw, breathing, speed for me. Those are mine. Yours are probably something different. Here are some that I've heard from other dads. Your shoulders creeping up towards your ears. You don't notice that it's happening and then suddenly you're hunched like you're bracing for impact. Heat in their chests. A warmth that starts behind your sternum and rises towards your throat. Some guys describe it like a climbing feeling, like anger is literally moving upward through their body. Grip. Holding onto things too tight. The phone, the steering wheel, the crib rail. White knuckling without realizing it. The quiet voice. Some dads get loud when they're stressed. I get quiet, controlled, clipped sentences. That's the dangerous one because it feels like calm, but it's not. It's a coiled spring. Restlessness, pacing, fidgeting, bouncing your leg. Your body is preparing for fight or flight, and the energy needs somewhere to go. Tunnel vision. Your visual field literally narrows when you're stressed. The room shrinks. Everything collapses down to the problem right in front of you. You stop seeing the periphery, including sometimes your partner over here trying to help. The escape impulse. The sudden overwhelming desire to check your phone, to leave the room, to hand the baby off, to be anywhere but here. That's your flight response knocking. Do any of these sound familiar? Here's why this matters. Last video, I talked about self-regulation being the foundation of fatherhood, the skill underneath all the other skills. But regulation has a dirty secret. It only works early. When you're at a 3 out of 10 on the stress scale, you've got options. You can breathe, you can pause, you can choose your response. The rational part of your brain is still online, still running the show. When you're in an 8 out of 10, those options disappear. That prefrontal cortex, the part of you that makes good decisions, goes offline. You're running on pure nervous system, pure fight or flight, and the tools don't work anymore because there's nobody home to use them. This is why just calm down is useless advice. By the time someone says it, you're already flooded. The window for calming down closed 5 minutes ago. Your tells are what let you catch that window while it's still open. They are the difference between proactive regulation, noticing early and intervening when it's easy, and reactive regulation, trying to stuff the explosion back in the box after it's already gone off. One is maintenance, the other is damage control. One prevents your worst moments, the other just tries to clean them up. So how do you find your tells? You practice noticing. This is going to feel awkward at first because most of us have spent our entire lives learning to ignore our bodies, push through, override the signals. That's how we got through school, through work, through every single demanding situation that required performance, regardless of how we felt. We got really good at not noticing. Now you have to unlearn that. Here's the practice. Set a random timer on your phone, 3 or 4 times a day, unpredictable intervals. When it goes off, stop and scan. Start with your jaw. Is it clenched or relaxed? Move to your shoulders. Have they crept up or have they dropped down? Notice your breathing. Is it in your chest or is it in your belly? Fast or slow? Check your hands. Open or gripping? Scan for heat, tension, holding. You're not trying to fix anything. You're not judging anything. You're just noticing, building a map out of your own patterns. Do this for 1 week and you'll start to see your tells emerge. You'll notice that your shoulders climb when the crying won't stop. Your breathing gets shallow when your partner sounds frustrated. Your jaw clenches at 2 a.m., but not at 2 p.m. You'll start to know yourself in a way that you never have before. Quick word of warning. When you start paying attention, you might start to notice that you're stressed way more often than you thought. A lot more often. You might realize that your normal is actually a low-grade stress state that you've just gotten used to. This can feel really discouraging. You thought that you were handling it. Now you're seeing how often you're activated. Here's how I want you to think about it. Noticing is the progress. Before, you were stressed and blind to it. Your baby was still absorbing all of that stress. Your partner was still experiencing the fallout. You were still paying the price. You just didn't know. Now you know. And knowing is what lets you do something about it. There's one more category of tells I need to mention. These are the mental tells. These are sneakier because they feel like thoughts, and we tend to believe our thoughts. First one is the victim narrative. When I'm dysregulated, I start building a case for how hard my life is. I shouldn't have to deal with this. This isn't fair. Why won't she just sleep? That mental chatter is a tell. The content feels true, but the presence of that kind of thinking is a stress signal. Next up is the fix-it urgency. When I'm regulated, I can sit with discomfort. The baby is crying and I can be present without frantically needing to make it stop. But when I'm stressed, I cannot tolerate it. I need this to be over now. That urgency is a tell. Next up is losing the long view. Regulated, I know this is temporary. It's a phase, it will pass. Stressed, I lose that completely. This feels like forever. And that collapse of perspective is yet another tell. Scorekeeping. Regulated, I don't keep track of who's doing more, but stressed, I keep meticulous count of every inequality. I build cases against my partner. That shift into comparison mode tells me that my nervous system is struggling. These mental tells are harder to catch because they disguise themselves as observations about reality. They feel like facts, but they're symptoms. Your stressed brain generating stressed thoughts. Learn to see them for what they are. Here's your homework. This week, build your tell inventory. Pay attention to yourself during the hard moments. What happens in your body when the crying hits the 20-minute mark? What happens in your mind when you're running on 4 hours of sleep? What do you do when you're reaching your limit? Write them down. Open your phone right now. Make a note titled My Tells and start the list. Having them written makes them real. It gives you something concrete to watch for. You are building an early warning system, a personal alarm that tells you when you're climbing toward that red zone early enough to do something about it. This is how you stop being hijacked by your own stress. This is how you catch the window while it's still open. Next video, I'm going to tell you exactly what to do when you notice a tell. You've got 90 seconds. What happens in that window changes everything. I'll see you in the next one.